I don't know what happened. We're gonna keep it going though. Um, Good evening, family. How you doing? It's Mr. R2 here at Texas Black Pages, and today's event spotlight is going to be none other with none other than my brother from way down there in Austin. You can't say way down. I mean, we kind of co-located as far as Austin and Killeen goes. But I'm with bringing on this brother that I've been knowing since the first time I ever been to South by Southwest. When I seen him out there, I'm like, who is this guy in the suit with everybody with suits standing around him? But then you start to see and know the man himself and the energy that he possessed and the amount of gratitude that he has for his community and the amount of gratitude that he has that's surrounding him. And ever since then, I've been connected with him and the things that he's doing, none other than Brother Robert Muhammad. So if you're out in Austin area, you definitely have heard of his name before. If you definitely have seen his body of work and the things that he do in the community, it just exceeds all expectations of what you think a community leader does, because he does it effortlessly, and he has a group of people surrounding him that also love to do and help the family out. So every time he comes to Colleen, I definitely see that he has the same type of love. So when you have that agape love or that universal love, then it's going to be wherever you are, in every place that you walk into, that same love is going to be, and that same spirit is going to be there too. So I'm about to bring on Brother Robert Muhammad, where he's going to introduce himself again, and as well as you get to learn a little bit more about him. And then we're going to get right deep into the Black Male Summit. So, Brother Muhammad, how you doing, sir?
Man, my brother, I'm doing fine by the grace of Allah. We thank you, my brother, for allowing us to come on and using your platform as always to, um, to elevate and to edify the community as you do. And so we thank you for giving us the opportunity to be present in such a powerful platform that you've been blessed to build over the past few years.
Yes, sir.
And but I'm Brother Robert Muhammad. I am the student minister of Muhammad Mosque, number 64, here in the city of Austin and the Central Texas area. And um, I'm just a community servant. I work on behalf of Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. I'm also a public charter school educator. Professionally, I've been in education for now 21 years. I'm also an advocate for the Black community. And so you see me, from place to place and event to event, advocating for social justice, advocating for social reform, advocating for our people in our community in general. But you often see me specify uh, advocacy for the development of Black men in our community, because I firmly believe that if we're going to have a community that is going to be a thriving community, we need both the Black woman and the Black male to be elevated and to be edified and to be evolved so that we can walk our community into greatness together. So I'm here once again to just serve at the leisure of the members of our community.
So one of the things that I loved about him, which I think we all, especially those who are community leaders, or even non-community leaders, we have to understand what the difference between an advocate and an activist. And I love that you said that. That really shows a sign of a true leader that knows, you know, what they are. Because I'm an advocate all day. Because a lot of times, activists get the wrong name. Activists carry the wrong type of energy, but an advocate understands that there is a level of humility that an advocate carries, because they understand that what they're doing is not just for them. What they're doing is for the greater good of the community that they're serving. So I love that you said that. I appreciate that you said that, and everyone that's out there definitely know and understand the difference between those who are an advocate and the individual that calls themselves an activist. So make sure you definitely understand that. So, but how do you see that, especially as an advocate and a community leader and the vessel that you are, the shepherd that you are as well?
You know, I don't I try not to be concerned with titles that people confer on you or on me or on anyone. You know, it reminds me of, I grew up in church, and but also in the nation we study, the Bible. And I think it was Jesus who once said that, let he among you who is, the greatest or the most important be the one who is serving. And
Mhm.
so, regardless of what title people go under, people refer to me as a community leader, refer to me as a community activist, a community advocate. My purpose is to serve, and through my service, if somebody gets empowered through my service, if somebody becomes a better version of themselves through my service, if somebody can come and get served proper justice, and through my service, if the Black community can be elevated through my work to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, and the community as a whole, then it does not matter to me what title that is conferred on me. The greatest of titles that I happen to have is brother. And so you will hear the term student minister, you hear the term minister, you hear all of these terms, but the greatest title that can be conferred on me and on any of us is brother or sister.
Yeah, expound on that just a little bit for the people.
Well, because if you look at the word brother, the root of it etymologically is other. And so your brother is the other version of yourself.
Hmm.
And so, through my years of matriculation, through the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and through my professional work in the community, and through my advocate work, or my grassroots work in the community, you have to possess and develop a profound love for self, and that comes through knowledge of self. And
Hmm.
based on the quality of knowledge of self, you produce love for self. And when you begin to love yourself, when you look at your brother because you love yourself, and you realize and recognize that your brother is the other version of yourself, you also love your brother.
Yeah.
But because of the condition that our community is in, many of our people are in, if you don't possess love and affinity for them, our condition will discourage you and disappoint you and run you away from doing the work that we do. When by and at large, the condition of our people as it stands in general,
Right.
because of our sojourn here in North America, is not all our fault.
Right.
After we receive knowledge, of course, we're required to live according to that knowledge. Then it becomes our fault. But our condition, when
Yeah.
we go to our people, they're in a hell of a condition, and you have to have it. You have to have supreme love and supreme affinity for them, or their condition will disappoint you. Their condition will anger you. Their condition will hurt you, and you'll find yourself walking away from a movement and a work that has the greatest of rewards attached to them.
Right. And I think that what we have to do and understand that that comes with, I mean, like he was saying, a knowledge of self that really comes into having grace, having grace to know and understand that what you're doing again is for the greater good, not just for you and your people, but also, like he said, brother is another version of you. So if you want to see that other version of you actually succeed, it starts with a succession that you as an individual have to have, that you are actually passing down. So that other version of you has to start with from your knowledge of self. So just make sure you understand that too. And I love that too. So now for me, well, one, I always appreciate you when you come and in support of the things that I do. So to see another version of myself in you as well as vice versa, that's why it's always love, because you're supporting, even if you're not physically there. The physical there just enhances the other version of you. So now having this Black Male Summit, and it's always needed, because there's plenty of women groups, there's plenty of women healing circles, there's plenty of women empowerment groups and all that stuff. But a lot of times we don't have those things a lot of times because it wasn't created. And when you actually have manifest this is what, year three?
Year three. Well, yeah, if we don't count the pandemic, year three. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So with it being year three, that means it's still new. And it was birthed out of seeing a need. And it was birthed out of seeing what wasn't actually there and creating it. Because a lot of times we find ourselves saying what's not here or what's not done. But when you actually begin the work in creating it, that's where the purpose then becomes connected. Kind of like what I said this morning. I was having a conversation on my podcast and I was talking about plugging in, replugging the dream. The replugging of the dream has to be connected to the vision. So when you created the Black Male Summit, it was connected to a vision, and now others have the ability to reconnect. So tell us about what the reconnect is going to be with this year's Black Male Summit.
But this year's, I just like to say, first and foremost, it was not I that created the Black Male Summit. It was the brainchild of, Brother Derek Muhammad in Houston, Texas,
Right,
and a
right.
brother that goes by the name of Silky Slim. They were the co-founders of the original Black Male Summit there in Houston.
Hmm.
And a few years back, a good brother, a good friend of mine by the name of Chaz Moore, who is the founder of the Austin Justice Coalition
AJC. Yeah.
here in the city of Austin, he he desired to address Black males, and so he convened, which was the first Black Male Summit at the University of Texas
Mm.
many years ago. And some individuals came out, and then we partnered together and we did it again at Houston Tillerson.
Hmm.
And so after those first two times of doing it, some time had passed. And we saw some increasing levels of violence and
Hmm.
homicides, and we know we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, and we said, well, we need to reconvene this Black Male Summit, and so we recalibrated it and we reignited it, and we had it at the Victory Grill over on
Hmm.
East 11th Street, and
Yeah.
that began the ball rolling again with the Black Male Summit, and we branded Black Male Summit ATX.
Hmm.
And so um, we feel that it's necessary coming out of this pandemic,
Yeah.
the increase of homicides, the increase of technology, artificial intelligence, and the displacement of jobs in the Black community,
Hmm.
the being in the city and the area that's long been one of the fastest growing cities in the country, but
Hmm.
unique to the fastest growing cities in the country. It is the only country that has a dwindling African American, a Black population. Um, it's Austin, Texas, and Central Texas in general, whether it be Round Rock, whether it be Georgetown, whether it be these thriving areas, have long been voted in U.S. News and other sources, Texas Monthly and other sources, as great places to start businesses, great
Right.
places to retire, great places to raise families. Yet, uh, the expanding and the growth of the tech industry here, with Tesla bringing its world headquarters here,
Hmm.
Google, Samsung, all of these areas growing and developing, but we're losing Black people. We're losing Black men. We're losing Black women. We're losing educated Black students that are getting their degrees conferred to them by Houston Tillerson, the University of Texas, St. Edward's University, skilled and trade craftsmen from ACC. They're moving to other metropolitan areas because there is a expanding gap in the technology field.
Mm.
And even with all of the money and all of the opportunity coming to this area, Austin, among the fastest growing cities, is the most economically segregated city in the country.
Mm.
So how does that affect the Black community? How does that affect Black women? How does that affect Black men who have innate in our nature the desire not only to be the king of the community, to be the king of their home, but what comes with that is a responsibility and a
Yeah.
duty to provide, to protect, um, and to do these things for our children and for the women in our communities, our our significant others, our mothers, our daughters, and whatnot. And so as jobs are being displaced, as this city and the real estate prices are skyrocketing,
Mm.
we're finding our people being displaced. Most individuals that we work with and that we worship with, they live outside the city limits, and they're even
Mm.
migrating to cities like Killeen and Corpus Cove and Harker Heights and Hutto and Pflugerville because of we can't afford to live in the city. That means that where there's a high concentration of poverty, you start to see higher concentrations of violence. You start to see higher concentrations of frustration. So then you see homicides going up. So the
Mm.
question is, what do we do?
Right.
How do we handle the growth and development and the lack that we have in our communities? And so this conference is designed to deal with the unique challenges that we have as Black men in the community striving to be Black men. We want to talk about manhood. We want to talk about education as they're shutting schools down and schools are failing and the state of Texas is taking over schools. We got to
Mm.
talk about a new educational paradigm because even when the schools are thriving and they're successful, when you look at it demographically, Black boys and Black girls are 30 to 40% of the passing rate in any of the institutions that are thriving. We want to talk about manhood and what manhood really means. There's a lot of talk about toxic masculinity
Right.
and the defining of what toxic masculinity is, but nobody wants to really talk about what real manhood is. Among all of the species of life we have on this planet, there's but one species of life that has the distinction to be classified not just as male and female, but as men and women. And
Right.
so we want to discuss what manhood actually is. We also want to discuss conflict resolution because as the homicides continue to rise due to high concentrations of poverty and displacement of jobs, we want to give our brothers tools to use to mediate their conflicts. And
Right.
so we find it ever more important, and we find it just as important today as it was yesterday and going into the future for our people to be uh, given certain tools and resources so that our community can thrive. You're going to have conflict in your community. We have to address education. We have to address the criminal justice system. We
Mm.
have to address our position and our place, in politics. We have to address, and among all of those things, we have to address economics and we have to talk about entrepreneurship. As technology is moving forward and there's the displacement of opportunities in the
Yeah.
form of jobs, we got to talk to our young men and we got to talk to our fathers about entrepreneurship and how to put themselves to work and generate the income that Samsung wouldn't give them an opportunity to make, that Tesla wouldn't give them the opportunity to make, that IBM couldn't give them, and Dell couldn't give them, and Google wouldn't give them the opportunity uh, to make. And so we want to talk to our young men about going back into the skilled crafts and going back into becoming the artisans of our community and making the money that we see other nationalities and other ethnicities putting their hand to the plow and pulling
Right.
out of this economy money, and they're being able to purchase land,
Right.
homes, nice vehicles. And so we want to go back to that, and we want to begin to have these, not begin, but to continue these discussions
Right.
and the relevancy of them in 2023 and moving into the future.
Right. I think what really happens is kind of like what you had said, but you had changed the dynamics of it. A lot of times these conversations start, and the conversation it finishes where it started, as opposed to continuing the conversation to develop the consistency, because from the consistency, then change takes place from there. Because when you're doing that consistent amount of work, then there has to be a level of accountability that comes into play after the consistency is there. Because it's kind of like if I'm seeing you constantly, like we're neighbors, if I'm seeing you constantly cut your grass, eventually I'm gonna start looking at my grass, be like,
That's
what?
right.
Now I ain't gonna let you outdo me, even though we're not competing, but I'm gonna internally look inside my yard and look at my yard and be like, you know what, I need to do something different because his grass is over there looking immaculate. So there's something that happened after I saw that. So now let me come over there and communicate with you like, man, I appreciate you for cutting your grass and keeping it manicured, but what do you do when you do this? Now the conversation starts. So now I'm looking internally inside of myself and looking at how come I'm not manicuring my yard, and then I'm going out to purchase products and items to come back and start manicuring my yard. And now we have two yards that are now manicured, and other people start to see, and then that change become infectious. So there has to be a start point, and I'm glad that you have started at that point and you're continuing that point even post COVID. So I would say to you and to everybody that is has been around the Black Male Summit from the starting point to now, be consistent, because your consistency is going to bring about change. Your consistency is going to bring about conversation. Your consistency is going to bring about that internal conversation that one's going to have with themselves. Kind of like when you had came up to the black men's brunch and that young brother was feeling that type of way because he's seeing other men being okay with communicating. He felt like it was okay for him to tell and expose how he felt. And that's the same thing that needs to happen when it comes to our conversation. It is okay to see other people doing okay, just like it is okay for you to see somebody that's not okay and you approach them as a man and you approach them as the other version of themselves and uplift them and edify them to let them know like bro, I see you hurting. Like, what are you doing? Let's go out to eat. Let's sit down and let's talk about that. So the fight or flight, like, tell me about that. Where did that come from, and what's
Well,
the energy around that?
well, um, a professor at the University of Texas by the name of Dr. Tan,
Mhm,
he did a study on gentrification here in the city of Austin. Now, he looked at the demographics in East Austin, which used to be the traditional Black community
mhm,
here in the city of Austin. You
mhm,
know, from the 11th, 12th Street corridor, particularly in that area, and he looked at the demographics for from 2010. I mean, from 2000, from the year 2000 to the year 2010. And what he saw in the data is that there was an increase of um, white citizens. There was a 442% increase of them moving into that area. And
mhm,
there was a 66% decrease in Black people or African Americans living in that area, moving out to the suburb areas in Manor, Dale Valley, Hutto, Pflugerville. And so, at the height of gentrification, and
mhm,
as Austin has become what they call a boom town,
mhm,
um, and if we are moving out, opportunity is moving in, yet we are moving out, and our opportunity is moving out. Remember when the tech industry boomed, there was a
mhm.
study about the widening gap between the Black and the white community in the technology field.
Yeah.
So if Austin is booming because of the tech industry and is now being called Silicon Hills in this area, you know, we can applaud Tesla coming. We can
Mhm,
applaud Samsung coming. We can applaud Google coming. We can applaud all of these technology companies coming, but they are not bringing opportunities for individuals that look like you and I
Right.
unless we properly prepare ourselves. So you
Right.
see people leaving because of the cost of living. They haven't been able to take advantage of the technology boom here in the city. And so the question is, so this is where the theme fight or flight comes from. So
Hmm.
do we stay here and do we fight for a place in the fabric of the city that we helped to build? Do
Hmm.
we stay here and do we fight for a place in the fabric of the city that they take our tax dollars and give tax breaks to these technology companies, and we don't ask them to do any social responsibility as it relates to diversity in their hiring practices? Do
Hmm.
we stay here or do we fight for, of course, justice? For those that have been murdered at the hands of the Austin Police Department and the surrounding law enforcement
Hmm.
agencies? Do we stay here and do we continue to fight for a place in the school districts, in the Austin Independent School District, Pflugerville School Independent School District, and the surrounding areas? Do we address the curriculum that is culturally biased and is
Hmm.
not culturally relevant to our students and to the success of to the future and to the success of our community? Or do we run away from here? Do we take flight? Do we go to other larger metropolitan areas where there's higher concentration of culture for Black people, higher
Hmm.
concentrations of demographics for Black people? And we can hide in those areas and say, look at Austin. Austin is, man, Austin is the only place where they hate on each other. Austin in Central Texas is the only place where Black people can't unite. No. Well, if you run to Houston, you're leaving a place that has 75,000 Black people, and in the metropolitan area, it's a little larger, and you're going to a place that has nearly 1 million Black people. So they have
Yeah.
the same problems. They just have a higher concentration of people. So,
Right.
so no. So what we want to do is to address, the unique problems that we face and to come up with solutions. I'm a firm believer that whenever there's a problem in an environment, the solution also exists in that environment. My wife,
100%.
I use this as an example. My wife did some research and she wrote a book about, how to give birth to a God, dealing with child rearing. And studies show that when a child is nursing from its mother,
Hmm.
that nursing child, when that child becomes sick, that mother can put that child on her breasts, and the sickness that exists in the saliva of that child, and it is transmitted into the skin and into the pores of that mother, and the mother the develops what do you call it, immune response.
Immune. Yeah.
uh, and so the milk is transformed, and more enzymes for this, more enzymes for that. And the milk is transformed to help that baby to overcome the illness that it has. So this is before you run to the doctor. This is before
Yeah.
you pick up the Tylenol. This is before you pick up the Motrin and whatnot. And so I'm a firm believer that exists in nature itself. And
Yeah.
so all of the problems that we have in our communities, the solutions are also in
In
our
our community.
community.
Yeah.
So we meet and overcome all obstacles in our path. Meeting them means that we don't run from them; we face them head on, and we can find the solutions in the core, in the depth of the problems that exist.
Right. So I like to uh, expound on that when he said we have to meet uh, them, and let's look at meat itself, the MEAT. Um, like we are the solution. Not just saying meat as far as red meat or anything like that. Like meat, you can have meat in a coconut. You can have meat in all of these other products because that's where the nutrients lie. That's
Right,
where the when you consume it, then it becomes good to you. So
right,
what information have we consumed? What type of byproduct was created when you wanted to meet the needs or you want to make ends meet? So the information and then the action behind the information, and then the change is the byproduct of the actions when you want it to meet the need of the community. So the solution is in the community. You know, a lot of times when we do things, we go out of the community and bring somebody in and expect them to change the community, but they have no type of connection to the community. They have no type of relevance to the community. So they're coming in with their ideas and ideology that has nothing to do with what is going on inside of the community. But we have to look at what's already there. And so
Right.
for everybody that's there in the community, you have those conversations. We need to have those conversations on what type of meat are we bringing to the table? Like, what are you bringing to the table that is of substance? What are you bringing to the table that is going to provide access not just to capital but access to information? Because I say it all the time, we can talk about what type of, we can talk about like the dollar and stuff like that, but can you provide me with the information?
Right.
Because when you provide me with the information, then that becomes my sole responsibility of what I do with the information, and what I do with the information can build other communities and build other kingdoms, because now I can walk around with that blueprint, because if it has been done once, it can be done again. So then you duplicate that process only after you have learned about that process, because the definition of learn is, what is it? The definition of learn is I forgot, but it'll come to me. But learn is the process of acquiring knowledge. Like, what have you acquired that you can then pass on to somebody else? And everything that he said as far as with the book with his wife, at create looking at Brother Muhammad out in Houston. Like, well, honestly, I ain't seen Brother Muhammad on this side in a long time. He's done phenomenal things in the Houston community, as far as even on the radio too. But I think what we need to do is, if even we can have a Texas Black Male Summit, to where we then merge and converge in the Houston area. And then the next time we're in Austin. And then the next time we're in San Antonio. And then the next time we're up in Dallas, because now you have the ability to bring more men in the room to talk about we are the solution. Because when we understand that we are solution based, then the actions is going to bring about a change, because we know that we're taking action based on the information that we have gathered. Because when I'm around great brothers, the only thing that, do I ain't gonna say the only thing, when I'm around great brothers, it provides me with the level of power that I feel that I want to go out and do something else, because I just absorbed that type of energy, and then it became kinetic energy. And then as I begin to kinetically move throughout the room, I'm ready to, it sparks mine. And I think when we begin the process of mind to tech mind, it's going to allow us to be able to go and back to our neighborhoods and communicate and deliver the right and proper message. And when you deliver that proper message, then that message then transcends to actions and activities. So y'all make sure y'all get in contact. Go, I'm gonna bring up the image again for the Black Male Summit. If you have somebody that you know, whether you're in the Harker Heights area, Killeen area, Copperas Cove, even all the way up to Waco, Temple, Pflugerville, Hutto, Georgetown, Round Rock, Austin. Even if you're in San Antonio, you feel like making that ride, you can. So make sure you pull up, get all the information. And is there where do you have the link, Brother Muhammad?
Yes, sir. You can go to Blackmail Summit atx.eventbrite.com. You can register RSVP at Blackmail Summit atx.eventbrite.com.
Okay. I was gonna type it, but I probably would have messed something up. But let me pull it up. Go ahead and close this out while I go ahead and get this Eventbrite, and let the people know how they can get in contact with you and connect with you for this event or any other future events.
You can contact me directly at area code 512-905-0396. You can email us about the Blackmail Summit at blackmailsummitatx.gmail.com. You can go and register, and your registration for the Blackmail Summit, for this year's Blackmail Summit, will allow us to drop you into our database, and we can keep you up to date with upcoming events. And all you have to do is go to Blackmail Summit ATX.eventbrite.com. You can also contact me on the Robert L. Muhammad Facebook. You can contact me at Gmail and Twitter at RL Muhammad1. You can contact me again on Twitter and Gmail at RL Muhammad, spelled Muhammad, the number one. But for the purposes of this particular event, you can go to Black Male Summit atx.eventbrite.com. We look forward to seeing your beautiful faces. We look forward to your input, and we look forward to seeing you April the 8th at 1 p.m. at ACC Eastview campus at 3301 Weberville Road. And I also wanted to thank Professor Hayes, um, who is the director of the African American culture, the African American culture committee or studies there at the African American Culture Center there at ACC Eastview campus, who we've partnered with the last three summits to have at ACC there at Eastview campus. So we thank Professor Roland Hayes for partnering with us and seeing the importance of having such a conference there at the ACC campus. Um,
Yes, sir. So right in the link, all you got to do is click that link. It's going to take you to the Eventbrite page, as you can see right here on the screen. This is what you're going to see. So when you see the young brothers right there with the shirts on, you already know you're in the right place. And then once you click on that, then you will go ahead and register and reserve your spot. Right now, it is no fee on the admissions, but ensure that you pass the information on and bring more people with you. Don't just be the type of person that talks about it and then you don't go and tell anybody else about it. And then you go in a room talking about, man, this should have been more, should have been more people in the room. So then I'm gonna ask you, who did you tell? If you are in the room saying, man, it should have been more people supported out this. We need this in the black community, but you didn't bring anybody, or you didn't tell anyone, or you didn't spread the information and spread the message to ensure that you can, at least five people. Don't say, you can say, I don't know a lot of people, but I know at least five, or I know at least three. Tell those three people, get those people involved into something that is going to be an asset to the community. So pass that link on that you see right there. Those that may be watching it on the replay, go ahead and pass that link that's inside the chat, and go ahead and share that with someone. Again, all you do is click that link. You come to reserve the spot, add in whatever amount of people that you bring in with you, and then go ahead and hit the reserve your spot. And then from there, another thing that I also want you to do right here where you see follow, go ahead and click that follow, because what that does, it allows you to know every event that is coming up under Mr. Derek Muhammad. So when another event posts, you will get an automatic email that's going to tell you that Derek Muhammad has posted, or Derek Muhammad has published a new event. So for everybody who didn't know anything about that, as far as Eventbrite goes, click follow, and then go ahead and reserve your ticket for that particular event, because you always want to make sure that you are in the know. And then when you come down, tells you exactly where the event is. It's at ACC. So again, it gives you the date, time, it gives you the location, and it gives you more about the event for those that want to know more about it. And then you go ahead and make sure you reserve your ticket. All right. So again, thank you. Appreciate you for being here. Let me close this out so we can bring it into the screen. Definitely appreciate you for being here, brother Muhammad. I can openly say I appreciate you, and I love you, and I love the things that you're doing, and I love the men that you have raised, because I remember them when they were a whole lot younger, when they were young, but they were seniors in, as far as college go. I'm like, how old are you? I think he said he was like, how old was he in college?
my oldest son, he graduated from college. I think he was 18.
Yeah,
And my second son, he graduated and got his degree when he was 17.
yeah. I was like, what do you do? He said, I like, was it gaming or something?
Yes, sir.
One of them, yeah. And I was like, how old are you again? And ever since then, I just seen them mature, not just as as how you maneuver, but mature as their own individual selves. And one thing I do love about them is they communicate and they genuinely love each other as brothers. And for me, with five boys in my family, um, that's a good thing, especially when you have a brother that you can actually communicate with, that you can actually sit down and have conversation. Now you're gonna have some brother stuff that's going to go down,
Yes,
but
sir.
you still got a brother that you can still openly and say, like, man, like, hey, what do you think about this? Because sometimes, they're not going to communicate with the parents the same way. But that one brother that you can lean on, we all got that one. I don't care how many siblings you may have, you got that one brother that's going to be able to for you to open up and communicate with. But make sure you reach out to your brother in your community, the other version of you. Click that link and bring them with you. So I definitely appreciate that. That's actually my birthday weekend. My born day is on the 6th of April. So I don't know if we're going anywhere, but if we're not going anywhere, trust and believe I'm down there in Austin. And I'm going to be there. So I register. You know what? I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to do it online right here, and I'm going to register so y'all can see me reserve my spot. So for everybody who say, "Yeah, I'm going to do it," and you don't do it, let me take the lead. Let me go ahead and register right here online because if I can do it, you can do it too. I click
Yes, sir.
accept, and then I click register. Oh man, I was supposed to click two so I can bring two people with me. All right, but I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna share the link and then I'm gonna bring somebody else down with me. So as you can see, I'm already registered for the Black Male Summit ATX. So again, if I can do it live, you can do it in private. And then we can go and communicate and celebrate one another publicly when we see each other. So again, I definitely
Yes, sir.
appreciate you getting on, and if I can do it as well, registering online, it's as simple as what you just saw me do. Click the register button. You see me follow Derek Muhammad's Eventbrite page. So now I'm connected to everything that he has coming up, and I'm going to be in the know. Just like you need to know that you can go ahead and click that link and register and tell another brother that they can come down and support Brother Muhammad and also the other brothers down there in the Austin area, Pflugerville area, that whole body of black men down there that is creating change, not just by words, but actually by deed. So we definitely thank you for what you're doing and everything that you are about to do.
Okay, brother.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody, appreciate you for being here. It's Mr. R2 here at I almost said consistency is currency. That's my podcast platform. My bad. It's Mr. R2 here at Texas Black Pages. I love you for being here, and you guys be blessed. Enjoy the rest of your eating. And remember, like we always say here at Texas Black Pages, the village won't grow if the village don't know. Peace.